the story and is now in Tallahassee, Florida. So, Adriana, it's now up to Governor Rick Scott to sign this. As I understand it, he has not been in favor of arming staff. He wanted to see additional school resource officers who would be armed at schools, but not staff members. So do we have any inkling as to whether or not he will sign this?
Anne-Marie, that's right. He says he doesn't want teachers to be armed, but he hasn't been clear as to whether or not he will sign this legislation. What he said yesterday, we called his office. They told us that he hasn't yet decided whether or not he will sign this, and they don't know when he may or may not sign this. But what he said on the record is that he plans to read every single line of the 105-page bill before he makes the decision. He also plans to consult with families of victims before he makes the decision. He's been working very closely with some parents of the victims in the Parkland shooting, including Andrew Pollack, who we've also spoken to. Andrew Pollack supports this legislation, as do all of the families of the 17 victims here. Now, what the bill did in order to find consensus on the arming teachers provision is what they did was they made a smaller pool of teachers allowed to be armed. So all teachers who exclusively teach in the classroom, so math teachers who only teach math and who don't do anything else outside of school, they don't also coach, they don't do other things, they cannot be armed in this bill. Only teachers who teach and do other things at the school can be armed, and that's just a way of making the pool smaller.
So, Adriana, you mentioned that the victims' families certainly are talking to Governor Scott and perhaps to other lawmakers about this. What about the survivors, the student activists that you've been covering since the shooting on Valentine's Day?
Well, as you guys remember, we were here with the students who came up to Tallahassee by bus, 8 hours in the bus from Parkland, Florida to get here. They met with lawmakers in the Capitol behind me in small groups discussing these issues, discussing the changes they wanted to see. The students said very pointedly that they wanted to see a ban on assault rifles. That's not in this bill. We spoke to lawmakers about why they're naming this bill after the school. It is the Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School Public Safety Act. Why they're naming this bill after the school if it doesn't have the one thing students have asked for. And they told us, as you saw, we're not only naming this bill after the school because of its students, but also because of the victims and the families of those victims who we have consulted with and who have signed on. Those victims' families actually wrote a letter to lawmakers urging them to sign this bill.
So yesterday was the first full day of classes for the students. We heard that they got some visitors. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Some visitors that really made them happy.
Yep. They had two visitors. One was Betsy DeVos, the education secretary, who spent about an hour to 90 minutes at the school. She toured the school. She spoke to a few students, not many. Some of the students complained on social media that she didn't do a good job of answering their questions and she didn't spend enough time at the school. Now, later in the day, Dwayne Wade of Miami Heat fame, the NBA basketball star, showed up at the school unexpectedly, surprising the students. They crowded around him. He gave a speech. He said the students are his inspiration. He said that he came just to spread a little bit of joy at the school. He's also been very involved with one of the victims' families. Joaquin Oliver, 17 years old, was a huge Dwayne Wade fan and actually was buried in Dwayne Wade's jersey. Dwayne Wade has spent time with the family of Joaquin and also is now wearing sneakers that have the name Joaquin Oliver on them as well as the name Stoneman Douglas on them. He's dedicated the rest of this season to Joaquin.
It's just, every time we talk about this story, Adriana, which is pretty much every day since it happened, there are moments like that that just bring the tears back into my eyes, certainly into, I think, everybody who hears stories like that, anecdotes like that. And the other thing that I'm reminded of is that these student activists, regardless of where you stand on this issue with how it relates to weapons in this country, they can all be commended for at least taking a stand and doing something that they feel very strongly about, as evidenced by Dwayne Wade, who says they are his inspiration. Yeah. It's really, really great. Adriana Diaz in Tallahassee for us. Thank you, Adriana. Well, police say